as this Bruins team continues to just be stuck in neutral and win just enough games to get you believing that they might make the playoffs, only to crash and burn like they did against Ottawa, I keep returning to this question, this existential question, which is, do I want the Bruins to win? And Pete Blackburn addressed this on the show. I think this is fascinating. Here's what Pete had to say from a Bruins fan standpoint of whether he actually wants them to win.
I don't want the Bruins to make the playoffs. I just don't. I don't want. I don't think they're going to be able to be capable of making noise. I don't think that they're going to be any fun to watch. Like, they're going to be the Capitals of last year. If they get into the playoffs, they're going to get smoked in the first round by a higher seed, and it's not going to be fun for anybody. And it's going to allow the front office to kind of skate by with, well, hey, at least we got in. We got that gate revenue. The Jacobs are happy about it. We get to keep our jobs for another year. I don't want that. I really don't. And there's a chance that maybe down the stretch, they show something, they give me a spark, and I change my mind. It's quite possible. But as of right now, I'm not actively rooting against the Bruins, but I don't hope. I really am not pushing for them to get into a playoff spot, especially with other fun teams on the bubble. And I'm looking at the goddamn, this is horrible fan behavior. I love the Montreal Canadiens. They are so much fun. I want the Canadiens to get in.
Yeah, you lost me on the last part there, Pete. I will never want the Canadiens to win. Although I do agree they're fun to watch. It's a fun team to watch. And I love Lane Hudson. It's just really unfortunate that's the team that he went to. Other than that, I think Pete nails it. And I wish I could push back on a lot of this, but I think he said it so well, which is the obvious of, like, we don't want the Bruins to make the playoffs because it's just not going to do them any good, right? Like, all these guys already have some playoff experience. It's not like this is a group that has never gone, and you're trying, and you know that better days are ahead, but you need them to get in there and see what the playoffs are all about. Like, you don't need that. All these guys have been to the playoffs before. And the other part of that, within that part, is there are better days ahead. Like, you need to create better days ahead. Like, if you're outside of the Boston Bruins and you look at this team and this franchise, you'd say, why aren't they tanking? They've got a couple of foundational pieces, right? Pasternak, McAvoy, Swayman, all of whom are in their prime and still have a couple years left in their prime. I think that's fair to say. But you have the worst prospect pool in the league. That's not an exaggeration. That's backed up by facts and figures. Worst prospect pool in the league. You have no depth guys. You have a GM who I don't know if he can identify depth talent. We haven't seen that in years. And he certainly can't replace the guys that he lets leave off the roster. So at that point, you got to be like, Donnie, if we're going to keep you here, you better nail the draft. And right now, if you're going to make the playoffs, then what's your draft capital? You know what I mean? Like, it's a team that's not good enough to make any noise in the playoffs. They don't have anything really to look forward to in the future. I mean, they still have those core guys, and Patra looks good, and Lowry's looking better. But, like, the prospect pool is so bad, it's not like there's real hope for the next couple of years to turn this thing around. You spend up to the cap all the time, and you don't do it very well. And so, like, if you're not just bought into this Boston Bruins thing and you're watching the team every day and you're like, yeah, but anything can happen, you'd be like, this team needs to tank. This team is better off losing. And of course, I'm not going to root for them to lose. I'm not going to watch the game tomorrow and be like, yeah, boy, I hope they lose against the Devils. No, man, you can't do that as a fan, but come what may. The other thing I thought was a really good point is they're not even entertaining, right? Like, if Montreal doesn't make the playoffs, it's almost like whatever if you're a Habs fan, because they're really easy on the eyes. They have great young talent. They have a clear direction. All these things the Bruins don't have. So if you are Montreal and miss the playoffs, it's not that big a deal. Detroit last year, the year before, that got close and got robbed of a playoff spot last year. It's like, okay, but we know that we're going to be right back in this mix. We've still got all our guys. We're a place that people are going to want to come play because they see the young talent, and we've got a good coach in here. Now they've got a good coach in there in Detroit with McClellan. But the Bruins don't have that. They don't have the tax benefits. Neither do Montreal or Detroit, obviously. They don't have the tax benefits. They don't have a coach right now that's going to be there long term. They don't have a GM they can trust. They don't have anything that they're building. They identified the kind of team that they wanted going into this year, and it was big and slow and can't handle the puck. Like this team has, again, I say it, for all intents and purposes, no skill. Like, yes, Pasternak has skill. Marchand on his day sometimes has skill. McAvoy, sure. But like, all in all, this team does not have any skill. To the point where you signed a center on the open market for $7 3/4 a year, $7.75 a year for Elias Lindholm to be your number one center. By Martin Luther King Day, a matinee game against one of the worst teams in the league, Elias Lindholm was your third line center. That is absolute organizational malpractice. That is an utter and complete fuck up. And that's not even talking about Zadorov. Zadorov's sitting there all pretty thinking, I'm not the worst free agent in this class for the Bruins. I'm not even the worst free agent to come from a specific team. I'm not even the worst free agent they got from Vancouver. Only one of their free agent signings looks to be just turning a corner now, and that's Jeremy Swayman. So if you look at Don Sweeney, he's a guy that doesn't draft very well. He's had one, I think, pretty impactful draft pick if you're the Bruins. Maybe two if you want to put Swayman in there. But McAvoy, about the only one. He can't draft well. He mortgages his team's futures okay. We didn't have problems with those deals at the time, right? Coyle, Rick Nash, Taylor Hall. But you didn't win anything with him. So he doesn't draft well. He doesn't necessarily trade well. And he doesn't sign free agents very well. Like, hasn't signed a single, like, impactful free agent for a couple of years. Like, I'm talking a guy who came in here as a free agent on a serious deal and was good for the team for 3 or 4 years. He hasn't done that once, not one time. Okay? David Backes, Matt Bolesky, Elias Lindholm, Nikita Zadorov, Linus Ullmark. That's the only one. I'll give you Linus Ullmark. He won the Vezina. That's it. And then you traded him, and you probably lost that trade. You traded him to a team that is in your division that's going to make the playoffs over you this year you forced this deal to get they gave up no good player on their end, really. I mean, Kastelik's fine. And you got the number 25 pick in the first round that you went and chased a center, a high school center who is not playing juniors this year. He's being a healthy scratch at BC with 2 points this year. That's what you got for Linus Ullmark. And you're hoping he can be an NHL player for you in 4 years. Hoping? Here's to hoping. But you've seen the development under this staff before. Meanwhile, Cole Hudson's picked behind him. BU led the World Juniors in points. And you missed out on Lane Hutson. You knew he had a younger brother with just about the same skill set, playing at the same college in your backyard, and you picked Dean Letourneau over that because you want a center. You're chasing a position 4 freaking years out. It's total malpractice. And so at this point, do I want them to make the playoffs? In a backwards way, I love playoff hockey. I love having the Bruins in the mix. And anything can happen, but it really can't. With this team, it can't. And Pete's last great point was this. If they do make the playoffs, that is going to let everyone off the hook. Because that's all the Jacobs care about. They're going to tell you they want to win the Stanley Cup. They don't. They don't give a shit about that. They want the team to make the playoffs. They want the playoff gate. and they'd really like 2 rounds of the playoff gate. Other than that, that's gravy. Just gravy. And so if they do sneak into the playoffs the way Washington did last year as one of the worst playoff teams ever, then all's forgiven. Everyone keeps their jobs. We'll run this thing back. We'll retool. Whatever the F that means, man. No idea what that means. Just a way to cover our ass when we suck. Retooling. Hockey trades. I'm telling you, we're kind of teetering on something here. Like, the way they handle this offseason could really change what the Bruins are. And by the way, that Capitals team, that was probably the worst playoff team ever last year, they're one of the best teams in the East this year. So maybe there's that turnaround, but I just doubt it with this prospect pool. You got to go out there and you've got to make some big time trades. I'm talking about maybe one of your core pieces, maybe cut bait with Elias Lindholm or Zadorov, get a dynamite coach in here that people are going to want to play for, and get some damn prospects, get some damn draft picks, and figure this thing out, hopefully without Don Sweeney. But right now, if I had to choose, just based off the future, the 3 to 5 year future of the Boston Bruins, I wouldn't want them to make the playoffs this year. And to be quite frank with you, they don't deserve to be in the playoffs. They're not a good enough team to be in the playoffs.
We are Rogue Media Sports.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. And if you like this video, be sure to give us a like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a ton. You can follow me on Twitter here for some more outrageous Boston sports takes coming to you every weekday at noon Eastern time. And then after that, wherever you get your podcasts.
We are Rogue Media Sports.